All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Channel 42 podcast. I'm your co-host, Troy Martin, along with our two other co-hosts, Phil Morgan and Tor Olson. Channel 42 podcast focuses on IoT technologies as well as security implications in our world and our technology devices. This week, because last week we talked a little bit about usability and security, and this week we're going to follow on talking about a little bit about CBRS, and then we'll see where that leads us, right? At the conference earlier this year, when we were still attending conferences, at the WLPC conference, one of the deep dive sessions was a CBRS overview that was provided by Andrew Van Nage over at Salona. And so I attended that class, and one of the inclusions with that program was the ability to challenge the CPI, or the Certified Professional Installers certification to become a certified CBRS installer. And so it's interesting that CBRS has taken off, and it's providing a lot of possibilities for connectivity for IoT devices. But the CBRS itself it addresses just a frequency. It's not a specific protocol or technology in and of itself. It's just a finite frequency range that's available in the US. So it's not even a global term. That frequency is available in different regions globally, but the CBRS itself refers to the US band and the 3500 megahertz, right? So I took the certification, but it helps me, for working opportunities in the US, but being based in Canada, there's not much going on for me there. What about Phil and Tor? Have you guys seen much development on the CBRS space?
I haven't, outside of what you just mentioned. Tor, do you have any?
No, I attended the same deep dive. Pretty interesting, I would say. Situated in Europe, there's nothing much there. But as usual, we probably will have it in time because we kind of mimic what you have in North America, at least. So not that much right now, but we're looking into it. I'm working with a global company right now, so CBRS is kind of interesting, more of 5G, I would say, and definitely LTE.
So it's
in Canada,
same frequencies in Europe and America, Troy? And I assume Canada's the same, right? Canada, America, US are the same.
Yeah, so we're currently evaluating it. So we have an organization called ISED in Canada. Previously it was Industry Canada, but it's the Industrial, Scientific, and Economic Development Organization. But they've been going out to industry, so there's corporations, individuals that requested feedback on what they should do to use that band. They received the feedback and they've made some preliminary decisions. They were scheduled to go to auction later this year, originally in December, but they've pushed that back 6 months. So we'll go to auction in June 15th of 2021 for the 3500 megahertz band. But my understanding is that we'll have slightly more spectrum available in Canada than what's available in the US for what they're looking at. There's still trying to figure out, how many blocks can be assigned to different service providers. How large of a chunk of the spectrum they can own, is also working on methods to mitigate any interference from the incumbent operators that exist, down south, right? So a lot of the incumbents, some federal WIS, or particularly in the military, so the naval ships, when they pull up to ports and dock, they tend to transmit in this frequency range. And so when they come in, currently in the US, because they win the rights, everyone has to move to different channels so that they're no longer interfering with any of the incumbents. Canada will have to come up with a similar policy so they can avoid interference. And I imagine that's the case rest of the world. I don't know, Tor, if you've heard anything about how that'll have to be addressed in Europe.
No, it's not there yet, but there's speculation on kind of utilizing 2.3 gig for CBRS, but we're a bit behind right now still.
Can I take a moment to just say how wonderful Tor's hat is, Troy?
That's a fantastic hat, little fedora.
I'm jealous.
With the red hat.
Yeah. Is it a red hat or anything, Tor, or is it just a red hat?
Could be an illusion. I don't know. It is a red hat.
Ah, right, cool, yeah, yeah.
It is. It is the red hat.
Yeah. Now I'm jealous, Troy.
It's actually my favorite color. So perfectly fine.
That's it. We'll work on our themed hats for the video portion of the podcast.
Yeah, we have to do that. We really have to. And I guess, yeah, I'm not getting a red hat there. So.
Yeah, so I think like the CBRS, it's really interesting. It's in the sweet spot of the spectrum, where it gives you the high data rates, high transmission throughputs, but also combines that with reasonable penetration through different materials. So the higher the frequencies, you can get higher data rates, but you're locked into in-room technology. Where you look at something like the 60 gigahertz, right? It's effectively an in-room technology unless you have very clean direct line of sight. But even at that, it's limited to sub-kilometer type, several hundred meters or so of range. But one of the big advantages of CBRS it's there supports LTE and 5G, which gives us some predictability and performance gains compared to some of the other wireless technologies that are out there, namely Wi-Fi, which is contention-based medium. You don't necessarily have the predictability and low latency in your communications, which you need for some of the applications that we're seeing come online that are leveraging the IoT devices that are out there. And so one of the differentiators that we're seeing are the requirements that differentiate kind of the enterprise industrial IoT devices versus consumer type IoT devices. And so maybe for a few moments here, let's take some time to talk about some of the different wireless technologies that are relevant to IoT in the consumer space. I know, Phil, you've been working recently on playing with some of the Philips Hue light bulbs. What are your experiences?
Well, very simple, actually. It works. You get the Philips Hue hub, you get the Philips Hue devices, you turn them on, press a button on the Philips Hue hub, and the app comes up and says, would you like me to add these devices? So very, very convenient. But like we said before, convenience doesn't always mean secure, right? I've also got the Samsung SmartThings hub. The big difference with that is that the Philips Hue hub does Zigbee, but the Philips Hue lights now are also Bluetooth compatible. They're Bluetooth BLE compatible. You can run them from the app directly with Bluetooth BLE instead of using the hub. The Samsung SmartThings hub also has inbuilt Z-Wave. And I don't think I'm being unfair. The Philips hub is awesome at doing the lights, but the Philips Hue hub is really for control of your lights. And you can do some wonderful things with it. You can change the colors and things and change the hue, the intensity, the luminosity, all sorts of things. But with the SmartThings hub, you can add temperature control, you can add a fridge, you can add a cooker, you can add power sockets, and it supports both Zigbee and Z-Wave. What I'm finding though is Z-Wave did Z-Wave Plus back in 2013-ish, which is longer range, better functionality, more memory, and so on and so forth. But what a lot of people don't register with Z-Wave is there was a hack against Z-Wave devices, a botnet attack back in 2016-ish. And after that, Z-Wave came out with a much more secure protocol, the S2 protocol. And when you buy things for your SmartThings, if it doesn't say explicitly, hey, it does S2, it probably doesn't, which means that even though it's a Z-Wave Plus, it hasn't got the newest security. And in fact, when you add it to your SmartThings hub, the hub comes up, the app says to you, warning, this device is not using the latest security updates. So it does warn you about that. I've now gone looking
Phil,
on. Go ahead.
Sorry, can I just interrupt you there? Is there a certification body then that overlooks over the stuff? Because you mentioned S2 and the Z-Wave or Z-Wave. Sorry, we see our Zs in Canada.
We aren't going to agree on that, are we, Troy? And I'm British as well, so I really should be going for Z-Wave. So, yeah.
But sorry, like on the outside of the box, will there be something that, how do we know that has an S2
Oh, it'll say on it. It'll say Z-Wave or Z-Wave Plus. I have not yet, my S2 device that I just bought on Amazon, because it says it was S2, has not yet come. So I'm waiting for that box to come so we can see what's written on the box. But the Z-Wave stuff doesn't say S2 on the side of the box. And one thing a lot of people may not realize is Zigbee is an open protocol, but Z-Wave is not. It's owned by a company. And so they are responsible for doing the certification. And they guarantee certification and functionality, very similar to the Wi-Fi Alliance do in the wireless world. Word of warning to a lot of people, if you go buying this stuff online, if it says no hub needed, that either means it's configurable from an app with Bluetooth or BLE, or it means that it's just using good old-fashioned Wi-Fi. So a lot of people want to do home automation and they don't want to buy a hub. So they're like, oh, let's buy this one. It doesn't need a hub. That doesn't mean it's using Zigbee or Z-Wave or Z-Wave. It means it's probably running over good old-fashioned 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi. And so you have an app on 2.4 gigahertz with a device that's on 2.4 gigahertz, which, although it's a valid home system, it's really just like G or N or B or something functionality with an app. And I got given for a birthday present by the family. I always wanted a drone, and I got given a drone. It must have been about 5 years ago. I think it was my 50th birthday present. Showing my age now.
Phil, you don't look a day over 42.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Oh, I get it. 42, right? Yeah, nice. And the drone is a wonderful device. I control it with my iPad. But the drone operability is, and it's an expensive drone, high resolution camera, wonderful piece of equipment. It creates an open SSID that my iPad connects to. The end. That's it. That's the security level of this device operating in 2.4 gigahertz. So what it means is, yes, anybody who has or sees the drone flying can go and get the application, because it's a well-known drone. And you download the application and you just say, I want to connect to this device, and it boots me off and you take over control of my drone. Make it fly off into the distance, as it were. And this is not a cheap drone. I don't actually know how drones have performed since, because I'm actually too scared to take it out and fly it, right, in case someone steals it. But I'm assuming, I'm hoping, if anybody knows if they've gotten better, you know, a pre-shared key would have been like a huge help, but nope, not even that.
Wow, essentially, yeah, no security at all. You said it was BGN?
No, what I'm saying is, I can't remember if it does 5 gigahertz or not. I can't remember. What I actually said was, when you go online and you buy, you go and buy home automation stuff. Home automation is a huge thing. If you do home automation, you get bombarded with lots and lots of products. If you go online and look for home automation, and you look for wall socket, or you look for temperature, thermometer, anything, if it comes up and it says no hub needed, odds are it's 2.4 gigahertz. And you have an app, the app and the device connects to your pre-shared key, and it connects via 2.4 gigahertz. If it says no hub needed, a lot of people think that's a great benefit, because I can easily and simply add it to my home. And the hacker, Mr. Nasty threat actor or hacker that's coming by, can also easily add it to his device as well. If it's easy for you to add, it's also easy for other people to add, remember. So a lot of the industry is now moving to QR codes or something similar, or a pairing method where you have to actually press a button to make it go into pairing mode. So you go to the app, press a button on the app, press a button on the device, or power on the device at a set time, and then the app via the hub will find it. Or of course, you've got QR codes and such things. The industry is becoming more secure, but there's a lot of stuff out there that is not secure.
What about you, Tor? Have you been playing around with any lights or?
Yeah, I have the Philips Hue in my home. I'm not using a kind of a advanced approach like you're doing, Phil. I'm actually using my home kit. Apple HomeKit,
All right.
and that works perfectly. I also have my blinders controlled by that. I'm using IKEA blinders and controlling those with my app. I would actually consider using the Samsung, what do you call it, Phil? Smart
things.
Smart things, yeah, because it actually supports both Z-Wave and Zigbee. And then I might actually play around with my central heating, because I'm using Danfoss. I'm living in Denmark, and it's kind of a Danish company. So I have my heating controlled with basically Z-Wave system there, but I'm using a specific app for that on my phone.
So
but it's neat to have it integrated into the same system.
Can I ask you, Tor, do you not have the Philips Hue hub then?
I have the hub.
Okay, yeah. But
I have the hub, but the devices I have also support, as you said, direct Bluetooth communication.
Because I want to add one thing from what Tor said. Some of the devices say that they are. So there's Apple Home, and there's also, so Apple's the Siri, then there's the Google, and there's the Amazon hubs as well. Now, some of the Amazon hubs and the Siri hubs, they actually have Zigbee built in. So they are actually Zigbee devices. So if you see no hub needed compatible with Apple or Apple Home, just do some research, because they usually say in like the third bullet point, you need a hub, or you need Amazon, or you need Google, or you need Siri, or a Siri hub. If it says that, then obviously it's Zigbee or Bluetooth or something, but it's working with them. And I haven't done much research into all of those, because I'm not really excited by the "Hey Siri, turn my lights on," or "Hey Siri, turn my lights off," because you press a button to do that. And
no, I totally disagree. I really like.
Yes.
Hey Siri, I'm sitting here with my whiskey, and I would like some more light, probably red light. So yeah, sorry.
Well, I'm just waiting for, "Hey Siri, can you turn the lights down? Message understood. Nuclear reactor about to explode." No, Siri, no. There's a famous episode of Mr. Robot, where there's a lady who has, Google Mr. Robot home automation attack, and it shows what can go wrong when the threat actors take over your home automation, and they turn the volume on your TV up and down, and your lights are flickering, and your air conditioning is on. It says that it's at 72, but it's obviously still trying to cool down the room to like 46 or something.
Oh, that's your comfort temperature, Phil.
Well, the beauty of the SmartThings Hub, if you buy the SmartThings Hub and the SmartThings app, you can download other apps to your SmartThings app. It sounds weird, but you can download other apps that integrate with it. So you can then do, the industry calls it IFTTT, if this, then that. So if my movement sensor goes off, or if my front door opens and my movement sensor goes off, it detects movement, turn the lights on, okay? When you stop detecting movement in the living room, after 30 minutes, turn the lights off. So it's if condition, then result. And it's an entire industry has been built on this concept where you say, if the sensor does this action, then you do this action. And there's loads of apps being built. So you can build this for home now without having to resort to MQTT programming and such complex things, which is beyond most people that want a nice, simple, Phil, all I want it to be able to turn the light on when I walk into the room, and I want it to be able to put the coffee maker on at 6 o'clock in the morning so I can get up and have a cup of coffee. That's nice and functional, nice and simple. And you can get applications and scripts that do that for you.
What I would like to have is face recognition. So my system being able to recognize that I'm looking really tired and then brew me a cup of coffee.
Now that would be awesome.
Oh no, now I'm getting scared.
So you mentioned there's a lot of choices out there for different applications and apps we can run on our mobile devices to control these systems. And we also have the choice, I guess, between Zigbee and Z-Wave. Can you break down what's the difference between Zigbee and Z-Wave and why someone would choose one protocol over the other?
The thing about Zigbee is it operates in 2 frequencies, but so it is a sub 1 gigahertz protocol, but most commonly what you see it do is operate in 2.4 gigahertz. So whilst Zigbee can operate below 1 gigahertz, most implementations that I've come across have been in the ISM 2.4 gigahertz frequency range. That of course means it's going to interfere with and be interfered by your Wi-Fi. So we all know 2.4 gigahertz is not a great place to be for Wi-Fi in 2.4 because all the problems we have with it. You turn the microwave oven on and your nuclear reactor starts shutting down or something. I'm being sarcastic, but that's the reality. I remember being told a story by a guy a long time ago when cell phones first came out, because they were sitting down. Imagine Homer Simpson sat in the control room of the nuclear power plant, and they're all sitting there, sipping their coffee, watching, everything's rosy. Somebody walks past the control room on a cell phone, and beep, the rods start rising. Now, the rods start rising is a very bad thing if you know anything about nuclear reactors. And he says, look, we can't prove that it was the cell phone that did it, but it's never happened ever before. Okay, so what they did was they banned cell phones. So you gotta have it so that the functionality of the system is available and always on. Hey Siri, can you turn the lights on? Siri, can you turn the lights on? Siri, can you turn the lights on? What's the point of having a system if it doesn't work? So Z-Wave has got longer range, and it also operates below 1 gigahertz in its own frequency range, so it's not going to be interrupted by microwave ovens and your kids playing with the PlayStation or whatever. Z-Wave basically is longer range. Zigbee.
When you say longer range, can you put some context behind that?
Oh, I have to look up the numbers. Yeah, but
Are we talking like hundreds of meters or kilometers or?
No, I'm talking like feet. So,
Sorry,
so
what?
you have to remember that both Zigbee.
Yeah, didn't get that. Metric, please.
I'm sorry. Did you say metric? What is that?
Oh, did I swear? I'm sorry.
So we're talking like you said, we're talking meters and yards. That's fairly similar. Let's keep them the same. So remember that both systems are mesh based. So and be careful with Zigbee, because Zigbee is not a true mesh like everything else is. Zigbee has 3 functionalities. There's the coordinator, the routers, and then there's the endpoints. And endpoints do not mesh. Endpoints connect to routers that can build a mesh. A Z-Wave can mesh as well, but there's limitations of hops. And apologies, I'm gonna have to dig out my the blog that I wrote a week ago with all the numbers in. I don't keep this stuff in my head, right? But we're talking that Z-Wave can maybe go twice the distance of Zigbee. They both
okay.
low speed protocols, but if you're in a warehouse environment, you may find Z-Wave gives you better coverage than Zigbee does in an open warehouse or in a mine or something like that. But one point I want to mention here as well is we talk a lot about our SmartThings Hub and our Philips Hue Hub. Please understand that there is, and we spoke about this offline, I think, Tor, you might want to jump in with your opinion as well. There is a difference between the smart home and the industrial IoT. The protocols, Tor, you made a great point about the same protocols, but then we said that the applications are different, right?
Yeah, and we see that we still use Zigbee as the underlying protocol, so to say. We also see some proprietary solutions, utilizing Bluetooth kind of protocols. And as you mentioned, we see systems that where we have endpoints, routing devices, base station solutions. And one of the things that I'm working with right now is in the shipping industry. We're actually trying to track containers and monitor the temperature inside the container and other things, humidity, things like that. Being able to tell where the container is in the world to customers. And there we actually use these kind of small beacon devices. And they're custom made because they have to survive out in open sea on a big container vessel. So yes, but we still see Zigbee as one of the protocols, and then we also see more robust industrial applications there.
If I can just jump in a minute and mention that you mentioned proprietary. Zigbee is an absolute classic here. When you start studying Zigbee, you buy a book on it or you start looking online for information on it, and they tell you to go and buy some XBee devices. And you download them. It's important to understand that the XBee device, it can do Zigbee, or it can do, I've forgotten the other name, is it DigiBee? There is a company that produces the XBee modules, and it's got a proprietary Zigbee type functionality that is a full mesh. It's not Zigbee, and it will not interoperate with Zigbee. So you might buy like a Raspberry Pi, 2 XBee devices, and it's not talking to your third Zigbee device, and you don't know why, and you discover that you've actually built an XBee network, not a Zigbee network. Because it's a proprietary version. There is I'll look it up now in a minute, but there's a website that tells you why it's better than Zigbee. And so what I found in my experience is people don't buy Zigbee or Z-Wave or Z-Wave, whatever. And if it's Z-Wave, no. Should it be Zigbee, guys? Just saying.
Only when you call it the
silence makes that a no, I suppose, right? I'm having way too much fun. But what I find is,
Zed.
Go ahead, sorry.
It's the hard and soft Zed.
The hard, soft Zed. So what I found is that in industrial, they tend to buy solutions that run over a protocol, not pick a protocol that has a solution. Tor, working with oil companies, would you agree with that?
Totally. It's the solution, it's the application that has to work. It doesn't really matter what's behind it. There's some security consideration, for sure, there are. But as long as they are met, it's more important that we have the right functionality to the right price.
I just Googled it. It's DigiMesh. I don't know how I could forget it. But when you buy the XBee devices, they can be configured to run Zigbee, or they can be configured to run DigiMesh, which is a proprietary protocol similar to Zigbee, created by the Digi Corporation. I think it's that simple. Yeah, and it's if you go to their website, there's an article that says this is why you should use DigiMesh over and above Zigbee, and it explains what they've done basically is they've taken Zigbee and they've said, yeah, turn that off, turn that off, turn that off, turn this on, and here we go. Now they're a large company, and so they have the weight to be able to do that. But DigiMesh is not an open standard like Zigbee is. But then again, Z-Wave is also not an open standard. It is also a proprietary standard owned by a company.
Yeah, so there are different challenges between across the industrial and the consumer space. On the industrial side of things, in manufacturing or some sort of batch or continuous process, there's a high requirement for low latency and guaranteed delivery. So whether you're gathering sensor information or you're sending commands or instructions to change components or settings within that process. And so the different protocols play to those different strengths. right? So one of the that I find common protocols used in the industrial space. So in the verticals such as oil and gas, chemical manufacturing, refinery, mining, pulp and paper industries, is they leverage protocols like wireless HART or the ISA 100 protocol. Now these are protocols based on 802.15. But they've been modified, so they behave slightly different than the protocols we've talked about, the Zigbee and the Z-Wave. Wireless HART, for example, it hops across the 2.4 band, right? So it doesn't lock onto one channel and continuously operate on that channel. On a per frame basis, it's hopping across different channels, and it's doing that to try to avoid any of that interference that pops up. So you'd mentioned, microwaves are source of interference on the 2.4 band. Other wireless protocols like Wi-Fi can be there, but by hopping across the band, it gives some resilience to that type of interference. It's also very scheduled transmissions, right? So there's a network manager that exists on a gateway device in the wireless HART world. That network manager builds a tree for all the nodes that are connected to that gateway device, and it schedules when devices will transmit and also when they'll receive from their downstream devices. So meshing's an inherent capability within the wireless HART protocol. And so devices that are part of that mesh need to know when they need to receive to hear frames that are coming from a downstream neighbor and what channel they need to be listening on to receive that communication. And because of that, they tend to operate and meet the requirements necessary for the industrial space. But it is certainly different between the both consumer and the industrial space.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I just looked it up, and Z-Wave was owned by Sigma Designs. And they are now owned by Silicon Labs. But they were invented, Tor, by a Danish company called Zensys. There you go. Another Danish export.
Now, see there? Bluetooth is actually also originating by name.
It's all happening in Scandinavia, man, right?
It does.
So is Denmark part of Scandinavia? A bit of geography lesson for our listeners?
Oh, yes, it is. It is actually.
So Scandinavia is made up of which countries, sorry?
It's Denmark, Sweden, Norway, it's Finland, and it's also Iceland. And from where I'm coming is that's the Faroe Islands. That's a part of the Danish kingdom. So that's also part of the Scandinavian.
But seriously, they invented Bluetooth, and they also invented the father of Zigbee.
The name is actually coming from...
Sorry, Z-Wave, I'm sorry.
Yeah, interesting.
And of course, we all know that Bluetooth is named after the famous king who united the clans. Is that right?
The Vikings.
Yeah. Do you know, I learned this the other day, that the Bluetooth insignia is actually made up of his name in Danish runes?
No.
There you go. You learn something new every day. It really
That's
is.
Fantastic. So awesome.
Insignia, it's his name. What was his name?
Harold.
Blood 10.
Yes.
That's
Bluetooth,
Danish, right?
Yeah.
Bluetooth. Yeah. So blå, that's blue. 10, tooth.
Blotte.
Yeah. Now you just have to say it in Danish, and we have to spread it out in the world. No? Okay.
Our listeners are learning so much, Troy, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I need to say this. Speaking about the metric system, right? We have the metric system in Canada, right?
Yeah.
We have the metric system in Europe, really? Australia, pretty much all the world, right? Except the US, right? But the US had a man on the moon. So, okay. Yeah.
I like to joke around. There's two types of countries in the world. There's countries that use metric, and there's countries that have landed a person on the moon.
That's a good point. Yeah. Wasn't there a story where Europe and the USA worked together on a project, and nobody actually, I don't know if it's a great story, but never let the truth spoil a great story, right? But they worked on a project apparently, and Europe was working to metric measurements and America was working to imperial measurements. And so when they came together to build the thing, it was some kind of like telescope or something. it didn't fit because Europe was working on centimeters and America was working on inches. Now, it's too good a story to not be true, right? But you never know.
Wouldn't
Nobody else
surprise me.
combined and
Yeah.
said, let's do this. They just assumed that each other was working on their units.
There's a famous plane in Canada called the Gimli glider. They received the order to fill up fuel in gallons, but they filled it up in liters. So mid-flight, it ran out of fuel, and it ran out of fuel in the air.
Damn.
And it glided down to an abandoned military base in the middle of Canada. In Gimli, there was a military base, so they called it the Gimli glider because it glided down and landed on this military Air Force base. But that was miscommunication between gallons and liters.
Yeah, that could be a bit of a oops.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
And these two countries, these two regions want to send us into space, right? Yeah.
Yeah, good vacation. Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, do we want to wrap up this podcast for this week?
I think we've covered a lot there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
All right. Cool. I'm Troy Martin. You can find me on Twitter at TroyMart, the handle TroyMart, and our co-host Phil Morgan. How can people reach out and get a hold of you?
You can find me on Twitter at CCIE5224. It's me.
All right. And cool. Thanks, Phil. And Tor Olson, how can people get a hold of you?
They can get hold of me at Twitter at the handle at 2RN1. So it's 2 Romeo November and the number 1.
Awesome. Awesome. All right.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
See you next time.
See you.
See you guys.